Instead, Dale Earnhardt was eating an orange like a normal human being, and he met Dale Earnhardt more as a father than as a race car driver.
He loved playing that up, that he knew what people thought when they were walking up, and he liked, you know, I mean, he'd egg them along, and he didn't have to, but it was almost like a gag for him sometimes.
He had fun with some reporters, had fun with cameramen, and had fun with fans. A good story I heard on the radio the other day was that someone was trying to get his autograph so they could auction it off to subsidize their child's education. Dale reached into his wallet, pulled out two $100 bills, and said this should give him a pretty good start.
You remember his final win last October?
I was there.
Talladega. We're going to relive that real soon. We're going to experience that when ESPN Classics coverage dedicated to Dale Earnhardt's legacy continues here. We are live from Rockingham. Stay around.
A little bit of fame that I have in this city makes my job a lot easier.
I don't really care about that stuff.
New York's number.
They're signing the merchandising area where they're selling all the items dedicated to Dale Earnhardt. The Winston 500 Talladega, his last win last October. Here's the call from Jerry Punch, Benny Parsons, and Ned Jarrett.
Oh, and Gordon goes down on the apron of the racetrack to pass Matt Kenseth, or I should say to attempt to pass Matt Kenseth. He has not been able to pull it off yet.
Put a blade on that DuPont Chevrolet. He can mow the grass next time by. He's down right near the grass on the apron of the racetrack.
Nemechek trying to figure out how to get by the 21 car of Elliott Sadler. He goes down the middle with help from Mike Bliss. And that just might work. It looks like it's going to.
Cars running nose to tail back in 5th and 6th. John Andretti in the 43 car right behind him. A great run by Steve Grissom in that 44 car.
And that's good to see. That team has had a tough time this year, and Steve proving once again that he can drive a race car.
Yeah, as good as you feel for Steve Grissom, Ned, you also feel as well for the team because it has been a struggle. And Mark Martin is still out there. Let's see, where is Mark Martin running?
Hey, he's running in 8th position.
Well, there's no quitting Mark Martin. Not a single bone in his body says quit. He will fight until the checkered flag wave.
You know, I think when I said that he had just come out of the pits, I think that he might have fallen under the same grandfather's rule that Jeff Gordon did, and that he was not penalized for pitting when the pits were closed because he came on down pit road and got his service done.
Well, Rodney Wise had told him it was 10 to go. And now, if you've got a gun, it's time to fire it.
And Rusty somehow stuck that Miller Lite Ford between Nemechek and the 55 car of Kenny Walsh, or maybe it was a 22 car. I don't know. I didn't think there was room, but Rusty went in there, and sure enough, the Ocean Party. Just touching that, got his foot riding on the brake just in case. But he needs to brake quickly.
Less than 10 laps to go, and now 27 cars, 2.5 seconds apart. It's still anybody's race at Talladega.
Look at Mark Martin coming high, way high up off of turn 4. He's got a little bit of help from Dale Jarrett and Jeff Gordon back there. They had come 3 wide through 3 and 4.
Cup race. Back in 3rd position. Look at that high side. There's Jeff Gordon up there.
It looks like Gordon is getting shuffled to the rear. And that's what Dale Jr. was talking about. On the straightaways, run up and hit me hard. Get this thing going. Let's go faster around this racetrack. Last time by, they ran a little over 188 miles per hour. That's quicker than we saw back in the Miller race, around 185. Much quicker.
As you look down from above on our Pennzoil Copper Camp, we told you at the top of the show, they want the headlines tomorrow to read at Talladega. Grown men use slingshots to bring the fans to their feet. And that's what we're probably going to see here in the next 7 laps. bump him, or will he fake a bump and make a run to the inside?
He's sizing him up right now. Say, hey, when do I need to move? Can I make a move?
Remember, Mike Skinner back there in third spot has never won in 140 Winston Cup starts. 1997 Rookie of the Year, driving the Lowe's Chevrolet, finished second here in April. Said he learned a lot those final laps when he lost to Jeff Gordon. He learned enough possibly to win one next time. Well, guess what? It's next time for Mike Skinner. We'll see what plays out here in these final 6 laps.
About 15th spot, he was 4 wide going through 1 and 2 just a moment ago. And guess what? Look, he's still 4 wide. Nadu on the outside. Rich Bickle on the inside.
It'll be 5 to go. This time by one handful waved by Rodney Wise from the flag stand.
Is your dandruff sending the wrong signals?
I'm making sure.
Doctors recommend Selsun Blue. So don't send the wrong signals. Get Selsun Power.
To Dale Earnhardt, some of the drivers will be with us soon. They had to do something else, like qualify for tomorrow's race. But right now, we take you to the conclusion of Dale Earnhardt's last win.
5 laps away from the checkered flag in the 32nd running of the Winston 500.
Well, that front group there are protecting that inside. Every one of them. They've seen cars try to take a shot at them up on the high side. Did Earnhardt make contact with somebody there?
He was on the inside of Rich Bickle, and they're going to the grass. Always, Earnhardt, if you're going to pass him on the inside, it's going to be on the grass, Ned. He's down on the very bottom of the racetrack. And Mark Martinell's on the high side. He's getting shuffled way back.
Let's show you what happened a moment ago with Earnhardt there on the left side of your screen. Watch the 3 car.
That's Rich Bickle on his outside. They go down in the corner, and all 3 cars touch. Rusty Walsh and Bickle touch with Bickle's right side, Earnhardt right side, and Bickle's left side touch.
Now less than 5 to go. Look at this pack of cars. Here comes Skinner on the outside. He faked the move to the inside. Will he have a drafting partner? He is now dead even door to door with Bobby Labonte.
He's got John Andretti up there and other cars that have fallen on that outside line there now. That inside has not been protected the way it was.
I told you the last time we had this many different leaders, we saw a first-time winner. Whoa!
He is on the grass. He really was on the grass, folks. And he don't have mud tires. He was...
Wow. At 190 miles per hour, he was on the grass in the backstretch.
Earnhardt trying to come up through the middle.
And Skinner has taken the lead. Going in turn 3, it's Skinner with the lead.
I started to say the last time we had this many lead changes, we ended up with a first-time winner at Talladega. It was Bobby Hillin that day. Will it be Mike Skinner today? Here comes John Andretti. The Cheerios Pontiac flashing by.
Oh, no, he's on the inside, John. He's on the inside.
Now they're 4 wide for the lead. Well, for second it is now.
4 abreast. Talking about first-time winners. Skinner trying to hang on. Earnhardt Jr. is a 2-time winner this year. Now they are 5 wide with 3 laps to go at Talladega.
No, there ain't 3 laps of green. There ain't no way they can run 3 laps like this.
Hold your breath, folks. Less than 3 laps to go. Who's going to win it? 47 lead changes, 21 different drivers. Mark Martin trying to plow his way through a minefield of race cars at 190 miles an hour. And here comes Earnhardt.
How did he get through all these cars? I don't understand how he did that.
The Intimidator is scraped and beaten on the right side, but he will not be denied. Mr. Restrictor Plate knows there are 2 laps to go. Earnhardt climbs to the high side of Bobby Labonte. Wow. You see him motioning. He's motioning the 55 car of Kenny Wallace to give me a bump. Come on, Kenny, give me a shot.
And Earnhardt is going for the lead.
And look listen to this crowd of 170,000 strong.
Richard Childress, both his cars running 1-2 as he comes for the white flag. Earnhardt loose. Dale Jr. out on the inside, so he's getting the back end. He's on the apron of the racetrack, Ned.
He saves the race car up almost against Bobby Labonte. Dale Earnhardt Sr. has come from 17th spot in 4 laps to lead it on the final lap.
But Kenny Wallace is in second spot, followed by
his teammate,
Joe Nemechek.
Nemechek was the pole sitter, and Kenny Wallace has likewise never won a Winston Cup race. 3 Chevrolets on the final lap at Talladega. $2.7 million and $1 million bonus for Dale Earnhardt if he can hang on. The no ball 5 contender, Mr. Restricted Plate, Dale Earnhardt comes down and will take his 10th career victory at Talladega in the Winston 500.
A crash as the team across the start-finish line.
And cars slipping and sliding everywhere across the racetrack as the checkered flag waves. The 22 is involved. Ward Burton was involved. The 9 car was sliding.
The 44 of Steve Grissom was sliding.
A.C. Compton was involved. And there, that big fist out the window, Earnhardt pulls up and says, "Thank you, Kenny Wallace." Because Kenny was right on his bumper and gave him the shove. And the shove actually was right by Earnhardt's teammate, Mike Stitt.
Many more wins were expected after that one, but it turned out to be the last time Dale Earnhardt would do just that. We're just getting going, honoring him. Stay around. We're coming back to Rockingham right after this break.
Family man and father that he was, I'd have a successful career and a successful life. And there's no measurement that you can put on the greatness and the influence that he's put into NASCAR auto racing.
Welcome back to Rockingham and Fox Racing. Up until yesterday, Dale Earnhardt's death was an unfortunate accident, but now, after NASCAR revealed there was a secret damage car, there are more questions than answers. NASCAR president
Robert Carroll making his first start ever in the modified division, the 69 car of Dave Conway. Third row is Dan Waite, and outside 27 of Art Smith.
Jeff having more than 25 years in racing here, and Bill Simpson, who works for Superdogs, and 3 years they've never seen anything like this. And in 52 years of career there in NASCAR racing, they never heard about any Superdog coming through. Shocked and
totally shocked, believe me. I mean, I'm just at all right now. I don't really know exactly what to say or do about it because there's so much work out there. There's a lot of uncertainty right now. If you look right here, we brought a seat cover. There's Simpson belts, and you can see there's a date here that tells you when the belt was made. And the part in question is this sign right here. It's separated somewhere in this area. I don't know exactly what caused it or what created it, but these belts are tested for 5,000 pounds. So I mean, what we thought these things just break is unheard of. And I know that Bill Simpson and all the guys at Simpson Safety, that's all they do. That's his life. He's a great friend to all the racers. There's no way in the world get answer from their family what happened. It's bad for him.
And we will keep an eye on the story. And it was a new car with new seatbelts. Mike Heltley, president of NASCAR, will join us live tomorrow on Fox to address the issue. Also, Sterling Martin will hear from him. Coming up, more remembering Dale Earnhardt from Rockingham.
Well, he does or doesn't do, he's still going to try as hard as he can. And, he's not my father, and it's hard for me. And so I don't know how he's doing it. I respect him for trying and doing it.
But you have a brother on the racetrack, so that must make it a little bit personal. Would Ward expect you to go on?
I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think that if something were to happen to me or something were to happen to Ward, I'd want him to go on. I know he'd want me to go on. Don't know if I could or not. I hope I never have to find out. But you have to get back into things. When you lose a friend or a family member, you have to get going again. You have to get going again. It's just what you have to do, and that's what we're here doing.
There's something about what you do and who you guys are. I mean, you're like a real regular guy, great family guy. You do the outside things, but you guys are definitely a different breed. There's only 43 of you who do this.
Well, there's not many of us.
Person on the planet.
There's a reason there's not many of us. Not because we're good, because it's not that we're very smart. But we respect each other. I think that the reason when you have a loss is that you respect Dale Earnhardt because he's 7-time champion, because all he's been able to do, but you also respect him because of what it is he's done to help you get to where you are. I respected Adam Petty because he was trying to get there. I mean, there's a common respect amongst the garage, and even though we can fight, we can really get mad at each other and argue and race like heck on the racetrack, we still respect each other, and I think that's a big key.
I want to go back to the win by Michael Waltrip with Junior chasing him, and you've heard so many times where it's been said Dale basically stalled it back a bit, let those two run when he might have had the car to go out and get him. That was so unlike him.
I haven't watched the tape, and I've seen the wreck obviously, but I haven't watched the whole last 10 laps. That would surprise me to no end, because Dale Earnhardt was just so, I'm going to win. And you've seen little Earnhardt and he race against each other, cut anybody any slack. I'd be surprised if that's what went on. It may well have, but it would surprise me. He's a tough competitor.
And he never did cut anybody slack.
Never.
Do you have a memory of maybe when Dale Earnhardt pulled up on your rear bumper?
I got so mad at Dale last year at Talladega. We ran into each other at the airport on the way out, and I grabbed him, and I was using profanity, and and he
he grabbed me again.
Puts his arm up there, and he says, "What do you want me to do? Do you want me to help you to win, or do you want me to help me to win?" And I went, well, I guess he is here to help himself win, not me. And then so at New Hampshire later in the year, he was trying to get his lap back. I wouldn't let him get his lap back, and he came up to me the next week and he said, I really needed my lap back. And I said, do you want me to help you win, or do you? And he grinned, it was like, okay, I got that one back.
And he appreciated that when guys would play hard against him, right?
He did. Like I said, he just grinned, he grinned, and he said, okay, there's nothing, he thought, I could see his wheels turning, there's nothing I can say about that. And that was pretty cool to me, because I actually stood my ground to Dale Earnhardt, and you just don't do that very often.
Jeff, thanks for sharing your memories about Dale Earnhardt. Continued success and safe racing to you.
Thanks a lot.
Stay around. We continue from Rockingham. 12 hours of coverage. First two live here from Rockingham. Marlo Klein. We've got an upgrade in looks coming up in the next segment. Stay around.
Losing your hair?
There's a live coverage dedicated to the memory of Dale Earnhardt. Part of 12 hours here on ESPN Classic, looking at his unparalleled career. And joining us now is one of those who helps cover these car races. We just had the 99 driver Jeff Burton here. You were over there in the garage area. If you didn't know what had happened, would you be able to say that there was a terribly great amount of difference?
I think so, just because so many people in that garage area who would not be wearing Dale Earnhardt caps are wearing Dale Earnhardt caps today. Ray Evernham, he's walking around with the Dale Earnhardt cap. You look at other guys from other crews. A lot of it is that it is business as usual in the garage area, but on the other hand, there's not as much, poking and prodding probably going on in the garage area right now.
And, as journalists in this sport, Marlo, we know that someday we'll have to cover stories like this, and both of us have covered stories like this prior, but somehow, to me anyways, this one seems so much different than other tragedies we've covered.
Well, I think because you guys have talked about it a lot, you don't want to say that Dale Earnhardt was old, but he has been around the sport for a very long time. I think everyone who was in the Daytona 500 had started racing after Dale Earnhardt had last week. And I think that these guys, this is going to be the first time for a lot of these guys to jump in a car, and Dale Earnhardt won't be there in the black number 3. And I think that that's probably why this one hits home so much more. I mean, forget about the 7-time, that he won the championship or the 76 wins, but I think he has been around for so long and he has meant so much to so many people.
When you see, just for those the uninitiated, Marla covers the kart series primarily and some of the NASCAR. When you hear these drivers talk about the safety issues, can you give a comparison as to what it's like on the kart series versus, these seem more like independent contractors, kart seems like a league. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I mean, you know, when you hear these guys talk about the Hans device, that this is something that's really just coming into this series at this particular time, where for now, you know, at least for about a year, we've been talking about the Hans device in the kart series and the IRL. And I think that it's interesting that a lot of these drivers have kind of taken a step back and are not as, you know, anxious to put on a Hans device. And, you know, there is another device out there that a lot of these guys are talking about. Elliott Sadler, Kevin Harvick talked about yesterday, that for the bigger guys in this series, that there's another one out there, and I think that they're trying to figure out which one's best for them this particular time.
Marla, thanks for your time. You'll be back later, and you've been bumped off the pole. Jeff Gordon is standing by. He's set to give his good memories about his old friend Dale Earnhardt. Stay around.
We're going too fast, and we're doing this and we're doing that. Well, maybe we are. Maybe we're not. Who's to say? I mean, how do you put a gauge on it? How do you slow? Do you want to race or don't you? I want to race.
Remembering Dale Earnhardt in his own words, and right now we're really happy to have on the set Ray Dunlap is back with us. Also the pole winner, Jeff Gordon. Thanks for coming
Good
on
to see
over
you, Kenny.
here. You knew I was meant to start with you. You get the pole 1 week after everything that's happened. I mean, it's almost like Michael Waltrip, in a sense, winning his 500 and then having to deal, and now it's different, but...
Yeah, you know, I mean, you know, you can say that you're going to go out there and it's going to be business as usual, but it hasn't been. You know, it's different walking in that garage today. You're just, you know, you're waiting for him to come up and pinch you on the neck or punch you, or, you know, just joking with you the way he did, and we're going to miss him, you know, but you know, one of the good things about my week was getting into that race car and getting my mind on driving, and we all know that Dale wanted us to go out there and put on the best race and drive as hard as we possibly could, and that's what we're trying to do this weekend. And I think I had a little extra help. I definitely, you know, dedicated this pole today to him, and that's why I'm wearing this 3 hat. And I respected the man so much, thought the world of him, learned a tremendous amount on and off the racetrack from him, and our hearts and prayers go out to his family.
You look great in the 3 hat, but could you actually see him in one of those rainbow jackets?
I don't think that would happen. You know, we laughed and joked about a lot of things. I wasn't his best friend. I mean, there were a lot of people that were closer to him, but we got to laugh and we got to race hard, and I'll never forget those moments.
Jeff, considering the emotions of this week, does this race maybe take on more meaning for yourself and maybe the other competitors in the garage? I mean, do you want to win this checkers or take the checkers here more so than you would have normally? I mean, I know you always want to win, but this has to have special meaning.
I think we're all driving with a little bit different intensity, and maybe Dale, you know, is kind of riding around with all of us and giving us a little extra spirit. But you know, it just, any time that you're out there on the racetrack, I just thought that was one thing that was set in stone, that I was going to be driving a race car out there with Dale Earnhardt forever, you know, and I still am having a tough time believing, you know, that it's true. I just expect him to walk up at any time, but my faith in God allows me to, you know, respect that and come to reality with it and understand that he's in a good place, smiling upon all of us.
Jeff, we've all spent a lot of time this week kind of reminiscing, telling great Dale Earnhardt stories, and I know a lot of drivers have said, man, he was the most aggressive driver that we've ever been against out there on the racetrack, and you've had a lot of instances where you got into a tangle with that 3 car. Is there one that comes to mind that's your greatest memory?
There were days, you know, when you were racing with him and you're just having a ball. Then there were days you just couldn't be more frustrated at somebody, you know, than Dale. He always drove extremely hard. It didn't matter if he was a lap down. It didn't matter if he was a mile ahead of the rest of the field. The guy just drove with incredible intensity. But my memory that I'm always going to remember is first year I was in IROC. I think it's the first year I was in IROC. We were practicing, and Ken Schrader, myself, and Dale we're going down the back straightaway, and I got inside of Schrader. And, of course, Dale went inside of me and took us 3 wide, and we're running 3 wide all the way down the back straightaway. And I looked over at Schrader, and he's looking straight ahead, you know, just driving as hard as he could, knew that, you know, no one was going to outdrive him into the next corner. He wasn't going to lift. And then, you know, for whatever reason, I'm looking around in these cars. I look over at Dale. And he did that, you know. When he's driving, he'll look over at you, you know. And I mean, he did that, and that was one of the things I learned from him. Is if you're next to Dale, take a look at him, you know, because he's in there just having a good time. And I look over, and he's just got this grin on his face, you know. And I took that as he's having a good time, but he's also basically daring me, saying, someone's going to have to lift in this group, and it's not going to be me, you know, and it, of course, was me. I was the, you know, I was the one that had to lift. I knew those 2 guys were not going to lift going in that corner.
I think while you were talking there, we saw him bang around your partner, Terry Labonte, but, you know, he knocked them all around. Stay around.
Okay.
You're going to come back in the next segment, and please listen to Jeff Gordon, the pole sitter for tomorrow's race, his good memories, his late friend, Dale Earnhardt. That's right after this.
Nissan Xterra. Everything you need, nothing you don't.
In tennis, the advantage of the two-handed backhand is obviously power because you're using both hands. But it also is deceiving because in a split second, you can change the direction of the ball that you hit. Your opponent never knows if you're going to rifle it down the line or rip it cross court, and I like that.
Knowledge is the edge. At Invesco Funds, it's the approach we use to make money for investors. You should know what Invesco knows.
Anything you can have or do to be competitive more than the other guy and beat them is a part of your plan to beat them or your system to beat them. And if you can intimidate them and then they call you an intimidator, well, so be it.
Feels good seeing him speak in that manner, you know, the way he always controlled the room. Jeff Gordon, the pole sitter for tomorrow's race, staying with us. You mentioned it earlier, and it was the way you put it was perfect, you know, to qualify it. We weren't the best friends, like, not that you try to jump in and take the stage on that, but you definitely had a very good respect that grew. Like, remember way back when the thing at the Brickyard, you know, he wins after you. Well, finally a man won the race. and he loved dignity, because you were this guy out of nowhere. You just rocket in, you were taking over, and it probably did bother him. But then he really grew to realize, hey, this guy's pretty good, and then the relationship developed.
Absolutely. You know, I know I had a lot of respect for him from day one, but it was neat to see, you know, how our relationship, you know, did grow in a sense, you know, of battling for a championship. I know how bad he won that inaugural Brickyard 400, and you know, came back the next year and he got it, and you know, when we were battling for a championship, you know, he had made a comment, I don't know what they're going to do at the banquet. They can't serve, you know, champagne. Yeah. They must have milk. You have to serve milk. So out of respect, you know, and he brought it on. You know, I said, well, we're gonna do a milk toast to Dale, and it was really my way of honoring him of what it meant to me to race him for a championship and to be standing on that stage, and to see him stand up and toast it back was just awesome.
Sort of like the way after wins, I think at Daytona, where he came and banged your car afterward.
Exactly.
You know, he was going to go to the museum anyway. So.
You know what? That win would not have meant as much to me if he hadn't come up and put that donut in my door. That meant so much to me. You know, that he was not a guy that praised you. Okay, he wasn't a guy that came up to you, you know, and said, you know, man, you did a great job or whatever. He was a guy that he did it subtly in other ways. You know, you knew that he's congratulating you, but he didn't always go about it the normal way, and that was one of those ways.
Was that the 97 where you had the record? Was that a different year?
Yeah, that was the first year. Yeah, it was 97. I went inside of him coming off of turn 2, and the air pushed him right into the wall, and man, he was upside down.
I don't mean to interrupt you. We have some tape of that. Can you kind of relive that moment as you guys are going?
Okay.
Because you definitely came down, and Dale looked like he was finished, but he fought his way to get back out on the race course. Remember?
Can't believe it, but he did get in
Yeah,
there.
I mean, he was actually in the ambulance and argued his way back in the car, right?
Oh, I know it. I know it. I'm not exactly sure. Yeah, they didn't really show it, but he and I were battling pretty hard there. We're battling for position because we wanted to both be in second place. And he was one position ahead of me, and I wanted to get ahead of him. And I never touched him, but the air pushed him in the wall. He bounced off the wall and got back into me, and somebody got in the back of him, turned him upside down. And, you know, he got out of the car, and he said, you know, this thing's junk. And they flipped it over, I guess, or whatever they did. And he looked back at it, and he said, I think I can drive this thing back over there. And he got back in it and drove it on the pit road and finished the race. Pretty amazing. I think it says a lot about him.
He was a very tough athlete. There's no question about that. That was his image, physically anyway. But how about mentally? I mean, I know you have to be mentally strong and focused to perform at the highest level, too. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? How Dale Earnhardt got in the zone?
Well, I think he was in great physical shape, too. But I think his strongest attribute was his mental, you know, control and how focused he was. He talked about, you know, how he was the intimidator. He knew it because that was his personality, and he used everything he could. When we battled for that championship in '95, you know, those little jabs or little things were a way to get an edge on your competitor, and you know, he was very, very good at that, but he was also extremely good at being very focused, very intense on the racetrack at all times.
Jeff, at some point we've got to talk about safety. There is an issue here that everyone's curious about what happened inside that race car, and I know you as a competitor have said and sat down with the crew chiefs and said, what can we do to make these cars safer?
I tell you, I feel like we have very safe race cars out there, but that doesn't mean we can't always make them safer. I think that it's a group effort. The drivers, the teams, NASCAR, you know, maybe even an outside source that is testing different things with a stock car that can make this a safer sport. We always want to be safer, and as the speeds increase, especially through the corners, you know, it's a lot harder to keep up with all that, you know, and we've got to a level where we've got to take that next step. And the thing that concerns me is, you know, about the seatbelt. I don't understand that. That's nothing I've ever heard of happening. There's something else going on there. I would like to see that seatbelt, and I know that NASCAR is doing a lot of testing and really compiling information to give us everything we need to make sure that does not happen in the future.
Jeff, continued success to you. Congratulations on the pole, and thanks for helping honor Dale Earnhardt. Stay around. Up next, we have a close friend of Dale Earnhardt. Got into business with him. His legacy also is about what he left the other drivers, the money they could make. Stay around for that.
Stewart with time. Lets it go. He's got 3 people down there.
You're watching ESPN Classic.
Touchdown!
If you're like the average American household, you've got almost $8,000 in credit card debt. Did you know that at an 18% interest rate and making only minimum payments, it will take you 47 years to pay them off? At this rate, do you fear you will never get out of debt? Don't live in fear. Get help. Call Profina Debt Solutions, the nation's largest, most experienced nonprofit credit counseling service. Profina doesn't make loans. Instead, we work with over 50,000 creditors nationwide to lower your monthly payments. If you gather your bills and call one of Profina's credit counselors, within about 20 minutes over the phone, we can help you avoid bankruptcy and get the collection calls to stop. Don't live in fear. Take charge of your credit and take back control of your life. There is help, and it's as close as your phone. Get your bills together and call Profina Debt Solutions. It's not a loan. It's a way out of debt.
Hey, baby, let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. I don't care how big you are. If he wanted to get to the quarterback, he would get there. He was on my back so many times, people thought my number was 56.
He had tremendous power. Tremendous power.
The former NFL star was arrested earlier this morning and charged with possession of crack cocaine.
I was set up like a mother.
Lawrence Taylor, Sports Century, the top 50 and beyond. Monday at 8 Eastern and Pacific, only on ESPN Classic.
We are back. Live coverage here from Rockingham. 2 hours of coverage, all in tribute to the late, great Dale Earnhardt, leading to 10 more hours on ESPN Classic. And ESPN's extensive coverage and tribute to the life and career of Dale Earnhardt continues. A 1-hour Sports Center special tomorrow. That's at 11 a.m. Eastern. Brian Kenny, Betsy Ross handling that, and reports right here from Rockingham. Right now, man, very, very close to Dale Earnhardt. Don Hawk, former president of Dale Earnhardt, Inc. And I mentioned, and it's been mentioned several times, that part of his great legacy is how he expanded things for these guys to make a living, you know. And Dale was a king of that. You obviously had a great hand in that too.
What we tried to do is, I was with Alan Kowicki, and he passed away in 1993 in an airplane crash, and I was doing his business. And 3 months later, Earnhardt came and asked me if I would be interested in helping him with his business. And Richard Childress set up the interview, and the rest is history. They say we decided to market Dale Earnhardt not as a race car driver, but as an athlete. You know, our models were the athletes that you all have on your show every day. And what we did is we took a rigid study of what did they do to move to the next level. And so we decided to market Dale Earnhardt as a race car driver. We began the whole philosophy of let's market him as an athlete.
And we'd mentioned this. It's worth saying again that a poll had been taken that 90% of Americans knew his name, you know, recognized who this guy was, and of those, 90% liked him. And yet, that whole thing about, oh, he's tough and you can't get near him, it was almost like that was a little bit of a show.
It was part of it. I mean, you saw it when we won the Daytona 500 in 1998. He wanted to about produce your show for you and tell you how to run it. And the good thing about you is you took charge right back and said, it's not about you, Dale, right now. Let me have my show for a minute. But that's the kind of guy that he was. You know, there was a swagger to his walk. There was a tone to his talk. And Gordon just touched on it a minute ago. And that was part of the MO. You see, part of the MO was that we needed to create a persona out there on the racetrack that scared the life out of the competitors. And you know what? When they were going down the back straightaway at Daytona or Talladega and they looked in that rear view mirror, they got scared. When they saw black, it was scary.
And that was marketable to a wide audience. I mean, it wasn't just like Dale Earnhardt did endorsements for automotive companies, was it? He had a very diverse portfolio.
No, it was a great thing because, you know, when we'd go in and we'd talk to companies from Coca-Cola to General Motors to you know, Anheuser-Busch to Rolex, you know, it was the thing you just shared, Kenny, was we tried to explain to them, you know, this guy is bigger than you can imagine, and they're trying to correlate, well, this guy's a race car driver, how big can this be? And the unfortunate thing for our sport at this moment is we've lost the greatest race car driver we've ever had, but I think it's going to move the bar of the sport again yet to the next level, and that's the way Earnhardt would like it, because what's going to happen now is you can see by these 62 satellites on top of trailers and the amount of action on the internet and the websites that people are responding, and at 90% number, they're saying, I want to raise my hand and be counted. I know who he was, and he meant a lot to me, and I believe this will help propel this sport yet to another level.
Don, what was your favorite personal memory? I know you guys spend hundreds of thousands of days together, but there has to be one thing that stands out of one of the greatest days that you ever spent with Dale Earnhardt.
One of the neatest moments was in the air. We're in an airplane flying together. We were returning from a trip where he made a personal appearance, and Earnhardt said to me, he said, Huck, you gotta understand, this is very early in our 7 years together. He said, you gotta understand what makes me tick. I've got 5 championships. I need to catch Petty or I need to pass Petty. And he said, one of the things that you need to understand if you're going to help market this whole thing is you got to understand who I am. And he said, have you ever heard the song by Travis Tritt, I Want to Be Somebody? And I said, man, I may have, but I don't recognize it. He said, I'm going to tell you what. He said, here's what I'm going to do. He said, we're going to give Travis a call, and we're going to talk to Travis. So he gives Travis a call from the airplane. Travis Tritt lets the voicemail thing roll on his tape machine, and sure enough, he hears this guy say, hey, this is Earnhardt. Travis, you there? Travis says, yeah. They get on the phone. They start talking. He says, look, I just want you to know something. When I grow up, I want to be just like you. I want to be somebody. And sure enough, what he did is we had a CD player in that airplane. He put it in. He boomed the speakers. The pilot turned around looking at us like we were crazy. And what he did was he explained to me, Hawk, I'm going to be somebody. Because Dale Earnhardt performed on the racetrack, I had the ability to sell him off the racetrack.
Thank you very much for sharing with us, your thoughts on Dale Earnhardt, and he continues to be as big as he wanted to be. Coming right back, another very good friend, Dave Marcus, will be around, the driver, to talk about Dale, and not just the driving part. We're going hunting and fishing.
Shouldn't everything be this simple? Thousands of new and pre-owned cars from AutoVital.com. Low, no haggle pricing and a pre-owned car guarantee. AutoVital.com.
There's a stretch of avenue through this city that is made of concrete, neon, and poetry, that is populated by ticket takers, ushers, actors, and by the strange, the lonely, and the beautiful. And there's one night a year when every note, every detail is celebrated. The 2001 Tony Awards. Save your applause. Bring your Visa card. The only card accepted at the 2001 Tony Awards.
Is your dandruff sending the wrong signals? Get Selsun Power. Doctors recommend Selsun Blue. So don't send the wrong signals. Get Selsun Power.
Like the 1998 500 win, did it not? Dave Marcus joins us right now as we continue our 2-hour coverage here from Rockingham. Thanks for being a part of this show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
You knew him for so many years and in so many other ways than some of these other guys who've created relationships only around the garage area and once in a while, the extra things that they do as drivers. But can you share with us how deeply you knew him? What kind of friends were you guys?
Well, we were pretty close friends, and we hunted together and we fished together and just sort of sometimes hung out together, and we were close friends. And it's been a tough week for me, no doubt. But last week at Daytona, we were talking about turkey hunting, making plans for turkey hunting to go down with Mr. Jordan and go turkey hunting this spring in Alabama and before Talladega and stuff like that. And I told some people that Dale was just a different type of a person. I mean, he didn't ask you. In a lot of cases, he told you. He would just come, and he was kind of demanding at times. But one good story I got, we'd go turkey hunting, and he would say, what time you getting up in the morning? I'd say, well, like 5 o'clock. So then he'd get up at 4:45 just so he could tease you. You're not up. Aren't you going to hunt today or what? He's just that type of an individual.
Would it do you good to see some of the hunting video? We have acquired some of that. You guys are out there.
Oh, I'll be darned. Look at that.
Earnhardt looks like he's just going out with his bare hands. What was his expertise? Was he a bow guy or was it with a gun?
Well, he loved to bow hunt also and gun hunt too. But on this particular hunt that you have here, this was in Texas 2 years ago in the fall, and he hunted for 3 days with the bow, and I had shot the deer earlier in the week with the rifle. And finally, the third day, it was getting to him that I already had one and he didn't. So he took the rifle the third day and he got one that day.
Were the animals intimidated by him?
Well, I don't know. he got a bigger one than I did, I can tell you that. But he was always, when we went fishing, he always wanted to catch the first fish or the biggest fish. And the same with deer hunting. I mean, he wanted to get one that had a bigger rack. Sometimes I thought maybe he let me shoot mine first out there to make sure that he could shoot one bigger.
But of course, Dave, the foundation for your friendship was what happened on the racetrack. You were competitors, and of course, you diced it up with Dale several times. We're going to take a look at some video now of you inside the race car at Pocono. Not one of your brighter moments, but a wreck. And I think that's really salient to the issue today. Maybe you can explain what happened here in Pocono.
Well, basically what happened there going into that tunnel turn, Brett Bodine hit me in the left rear and it turned my car sideways. And, and I tried to correct the car, which we normally do, and I thought I was going to be able to, but then when you realize you can't, I'm telling you, that car hit that wall so hard.
Dave, what goes through your mind when you know you're going to hit the wall?
I mean, you see it coming. I guess everything kind of flashes in front of you, and your whole life sort of like, and you brace for it. I mean, I always do keep my shoulder harnesses tightened up during the race. You know, I tighten them several times on the straightaways and stuff like that. But I knew it was going to be a very hard impact, and you know, it's you just try and brace yourself for it. I mean, you think probably that's the end. I mean, it all happens so fast, and I can remember the impact. The car going up in the air, and it knocked the wind out of me, and then when the car spun around, then I kind of was knocked a little bit out a little bit right then, but then came to right away. And of course, right away you can't breathe. You know, it knocks all the air out of your lungs and stuff, and you can't get your breath. So you're gasping for air and trying to get your breath back. And sometimes you wonder if you're even going to get that accomplished. It just seems like you're going to choke right there.
All that said, was there anything to do but come back and race this week? Because if whatever break they took, it was either you stop racing or you race at some point. So why not next week?
Well, I mean, yes, that's true. I don't think Dale would want us to stop racing. I think that he would want us to continue on just like we're going to do this weekend. I'm sure of that. And in my case there, I was right back racing the next weekend. In fact, I went to the hospital in Pocono that day, got back with the guys, picked me up, and I helped them drive the the van on the way home that evening. So, I mean, we have to keep moving forward. I mean, that's just a part of life, whether it be motorcycle racing, car racing, mountain climbing, even hunting. I mean, there's hunting accidents too. So, I mean, it's just how things are. It's sad sometimes, but that is how it is.
Thank you for coming on here and helping remember your old friend. It continues here from Rockingham. 2 hours of live coverage as part of 12 hours on ESPN Classic. The other Burton, Ward Burton's on deck. We'll be talking about Dale real soon.
In pro football, if you get to the championship game, you got to be pretty good. If you get there and win, you got to be really good. Now, if you get there 4 times and win all 4 times, well, you got to be Joe Montana.
When you're an original, you do it your own way. Original Coors.
Expect more from an original. Original Coors.
Burn it, play it.
We are back at Rockingham, qualifying today for Sunday's race. Everyone here to pay tribute to Dale Earnhardt and to get back to racing so soon after his passing. ESPN Classic presenting LT. 2 initials is enough to make you watch. That's Monday, 8 Eastern, 5 out west. Always dial 1-800-CLASSIC to get more of it. And with us, the brother. We had Jeff Burton earlier. He qualified 5th. Ward Burton 11th. So you know you're chasing him from the start too. I appreciate you coming out of here though to talk about the main subject, which is Dale Earnhardt. Can you remember very first time you came upon him? You know what the circumstances were. Were you like a timid guy? Like, should I go up to him? You know, how did it go out?
First time I met Dale, and he actually came and spoke to me. You know, rather than me going to speak to him, I was trying to make a bush race at Hickory. And we had borrowed a car, and I took all my late model crew that we had run South Boston with for years, and brought the car around start finish line for 2 laps in a row sideways and didn't make the race. And as we were leaving, you know, I had my wife with me and all of my comrades, and Dale come up and grabbed me by the shirt and said, what was your car doing? What was the problem out there? And I told him, and he said, you just keep on believing in yourself. You can drive a race car. You just proved that to me. And man, what an impact that made on a young guy like me trying to get going in the sport. It made a huge impact. I never forgot it.
That keep you around for 20 years of racing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he was our mentor. He was our leader on and off the track. It's definitely going to be different for a long, long time. There's going to be people amongst us that rise to the occasion to take a leadership role, but for myself and my generation, there'll never be another leader for me as long as I'm racing out here.
This is struck pretty deep. The pain will continue for a long time to come. Of course, you're a family man, a wife and 2 children. How have they reacted to this? Have they expressed some concern about your career inside the race car?
Yeah, pretty rough. We had a discussion was the minute my plane landed in Roxborough, North Carolina, coming from Daytona. We heard the news. My wife was driving one car, I was driving my truck, and we pulled over, and you know, all of us were in tears right then. And it's awful difficult to be able to explain that to an 8-year-old and a 14-year-old. I got an 8-year-old boy and a 14-year-old daughter, and my wife, you know, because obviously they're upset about Dale, and because he was one of us, you know, comrades, and you know, they know it could have been me, and there are no words out there that I can make them feel better and comfort them. All I can do is just carry on conversations, and when they have a need, it wasn't just 10 minutes ago my wife was asking me some more questions about the Hans and some different things that she wanted to know about, and where maybe I might have kind of blown it off. Now I'm sitting down with her and I'm listening to her and talking to her about it.
Referring to the Hans device, the support for the neck and the head, is that something you are strongly considering, or?
Well, I'm going to try it out Tuesday in Atlanta when I'm testing. I don't know if it's the answer. I don't know if it would have made any difference Sunday, but obviously it's one of the devices that, you know, we have at our disposal to try.
When you come right down to it, though, because you can ask the question 100 ways, if you're not a car driver and you're not a jet pilot and you're not a fireman, you know, these terribly dangerous jobs, you just don't get it, and you never will. I'm speaking, you know, for myself, who doesn't do a dangerous job. So the only way I assume you can explain it is that's what I love, and I accept the dangerousness of it all.
Well, you know, no matter what we do, if a Hans would have made a difference Sunday, if Simpson Race Products and find something here better, and I'm a big believer in Simpson, obviously we'll try it, but you're never going to be able to take away there is an element of danger in what we do. We're going fast, we're around a lot of people. Things can happen that are outside of our control. When I had a little tap Sunday from behind, it caused a 15 to 18 car pileup. It was out of my control, and there's nothing that NASCAR or anybody else can do to take somewhat of the danger out of the sport, or any other sport when you got guys kind of putting things on the edge, you know.
We appreciate you coming out, honoring Dale, and those words he gave you so long ago, I think you'll carry them always, and I hope it breeds more success for you.
Well, I mean, it's definitely different at track, and it's a completely different atmosphere, but everybody's rising to the occasion to support Dale and his family, and I think you're going to see some really great things. We've already seen so many great things, just like what y'all are doing here to honor Dale. I think he'd be awful proud and maybe somewhat amazed of how many people that he made a difference in their lives.
I think he'd tell us to have knocked it off after a certain point. For the record, he wanted to wear a 3 cap. We just couldn't find one at her. And I said, thanks again for coming on.
Okay,
the champion from last season, the Winston Cup champion for the season, Bobby Labonte, is going to be with us next. Stay around as we continue to tribute Dale Earnhardt.
The Subaru Forester has won awards after award after award. So what have we done for an encore? Made it even better. Introducing the totally restyled Subaru Forester with our best all-wheel driving system ever. And the awards? Still plenty of cargo space to hold them all.
Now you can get financing as low as 3.9% APR on all 2001 models.
This is hip. Pretty baby. Oh. This is hip, baby. It's so hip, pretty baby. This is hip, pretty baby. All messed around and fell in love.
Jack Daniel's Grill, only on Fridays. If it runs,
Onto the backstretch.
burns,
Wow, big explosion.
spins, or turns,
This could be the championship.
we're the insiders.
He's out of fuel.
RPM Tonight, the most in-depth racing coverage anywhere. Nightly at 7, only on ESPN2.
For more on the life and career of the Intimidator, visit ESPN.com Classic special Dale Earnhardt site. Earnhardt tributes, remembrances, official career stats, and photo gallery, plus audio and video clips of the Man in Black. Visit ESPN.com Classic.
Didn't see anything.
Didn't see what. Didn't see nothing. Didn't see nothing.
We are back with ESPN Classics. Unprecedented 12 hours of coverage, but for a guy who deserves it, call 1-800-CLASSIC if you want more of this kind of stuff. We're here at Rockingham now with the champion from last season, Bobby Labonte. A late congratulations on that, and condolences on losing your friend. It's everyone has said it's really the same thing, very difficult, but yet what are you going to do? You either quit or you carry on.
Well, a little bit of both this week. You know, I mean, you wanted to quit, but you wanted to carry on, I guess. But you know, when you got back down here today, I guess you know, sitting in a race car is like, you know, some people have their comfort level, and you know, as bad as it may sound sometimes, I mean, you know, getting in a race car is my comfort level. You know, when it's usually 90% of the time, that's where I have you know, what I can do by yourself, and you're just, you know, you're your own in your own world, I guess you might say, and nobody's talking to you as much, nobody's listening to you, so you just kind of do it. But you know, it is hard, and you know, all week long I've been kind of lost, you know.
A civilian's daydream while we drive. Do you, I know you're in communication with your chief and all, but do you, and today were you thinking about Dale as you took your lap?
Well, I mean, you know, I guess it's always on your mind, and you know, the stuff that you know, you just, I mean, yes, but you know, you still have to concentrate on what you're doing, of course, but you know, at the same time, when we're out of the car, you're thinking about it, you know, we're talking about it, and we talked about it with Gary Nelson and a lot of other people too prior to qualifying, and it's definitely weighing on everybody's minds, and you know, at the same time, we got to keep doing it, but you don't really want to lose grip of that either, because you want to think about it.
Well, Bobby, you, of course, come from a racing family, and I think a lot of people out there are wondering, how can Dale Jr. possibly get in a race car right now? Or how did Kyle Petty get in a race car after Adam's life was taken at New Hampshire last year? Can you explain the racing family mentality?
Well, I can explain the mentality. I don't know how those guys do it or are doing it and did it, because I definitely didn't experience what they have experienced. But so I can't speak for that, because I have no idea. I know how tough it is for me, but I have no idea how tough it is for those guys. But you know,
and of course you've got a brother on the racetrack, so that I'm sure that strikes home a little bit deeper too.
It really does. I mean, we're just stupid. We just keep doing what we're doing, you know. I mean, who knows? I mean, it's our livelihood, I guess, and that's what we want to keep doing. And you know, my wife said this week, she said, you know, I didn't want to ask her what she thought as much as, you know, I was afraid of the answer. And you know, at the same time, you know, she said, well, I ain't gonna tell you not to quit. I mean, I'm not gonna tell you to quit, because I want you to do what you love, and you love racing. You work hard at making it better for you, which in turn makes it better for them. I said, well, that's a good point.
Here's one way for you individually to remember Dale Earnhardt. It was Atlanta, it was last season, and it was close. Bob Jenkins takes care of the rest of it.
Here's Labonte. He's got to run. This is his last chance. This is his last gasp effort.
They're coming down for the white flag. One more lap to go. Labonte has the good run here in the quad oval. He took a look to the inside, couldn't make the move. He'll head for the top side of the racetrack in turns 1 and 2, but Dale Earnhardt maintains the lead down the backstretch for the final time. Labonte right on the rear spoiler.
And Earnhardt goes in high. That's going to leave some room for Labonte on the bottom.
Here comes Bobby Labonte making a charge. They come toward the line. Who will it be? It is going to be... I don't know. I don't either.
Well, looked like Earnhardt just by a little bit.
That was one of the closest finishes in the history of NASCAR.
And Chalky Myers is saying, who won? Who won?
And Earnhardt's crew celebrates, so apparently he's won. It did look as if he had just a fraction of an inch advantage at the line.
Who did win that race?
I don't know. Looking at it now, I thought you got one. But I will have to say that I'm glad it turned out like it did.
I'll tell you what, Bobby, when we look at those kind of memories, those are the things that really, I guess, get my heart started back and say that's why we can get back out on the track here today. But I guess a lot of fans would kind of wonder, when a tragedy like this happens, does it change your perspective about what you want to accomplish in your future?
Well, you know, it makes you think that as much as you might say something differently, but right now, I mean, it's obvious that, you know, talking to my guys at the shop and everybody Joe Gibbs Racing, I mean, wins and championships, you know, might not mean that much anymore. I mean, at this point in time, of course, I mean, you're grieving more than any other time down the road, but you know, it's, you know, it's just not, you know, when you take, you know, somebody that you admired and that will never be replaced, and you put them in, you know, you put them in a situation of a tragedy and not natural causes or something like that, then, you know, the rest of it's really immaterial.
Bobby, thanks for staying here, coming all the way out here to help honor your late friend. Qualified third for the Sunday race. Good luck in that.
All right,
Good
thanks a
luck
lot,
always.
guys. Thanks.
We will come back with Ned Jarrett. He'll be remembering Dale Earnhardt and the good battle his son had with him. Stay around. ESPN Classics coverage continues right after this.
I just liked him since I was little. When I was like just starting watching racing, like my dad was outside Sunday and I'd just turn it on. And one day he told me to look for a black car Chevy, and I said, I found one. And he said, which one? I said, Dale Earnhardt. And I've liked him ever since.
At the right, looking toward the end zone, throwing under pressure. Throws his pass. Caught by Clark. Clark got a touchdown. Clark.
This is ESPN Classic.
You know, most men get pretty shook up about losing their hair. But today, many of them are learning about Bosley Medical. They use your own living hair to fill in the thin spots. Just look at that. It really works. You can treat it like real hair because it is real hair. Your own naturally growing hair. So you don't have to worry about it.
Bosley Medical is the world's most experienced hair restoration practice. For over 25 years, they have performed more than 130,000 procedures using the innovative micrografting techniques pioneered by founder Dr. L. Lee Bosley.
Each surgeon at Bosley Medical is board certified and individually trained by me.
So if you want to have your own naturally growing hair back, call this number for more information. We'll send you this free video and in-depth guidebook that gives you the real facts about hair restoration. There's no cost and absolutely no obligation. So do it for yourself. Call now and get the real results you've been looking for.
It's your real hair.
You can't do better than real.
ESPN Classic remembers baseball great Eddie Matthews. Monday, part of ESPN Classic's Monday Night Baseball. A tribute to the Hall of Fame slugger with classic moments from his record-breaking career. Starting at 9, Matthews leads the Milwaukee Braves to victory in the '57 World Series. At 10, the classic home run derby between Matthews and the great Hank Aaron. Then at 10:30, a look back at his incredible '59 season with the Braves. Remembering Eddie Matthews. Monday, starting at 9 Eastern, 10 Pacific. Only on ESPN Classic.
We are back at Rockingham. Everyone out to honor the late, great Dale Earnhardt. Ned Jarrett now joins in. He needs no other further introduction.
Hello,
Thank you so much for being a part of this.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Hello, Matt.
Hi, Ned.
There are going to be, I don't know the exact count on the attendance there, but I think a good percentage going to be wearing something for him, going to be honoring him in some way, and that's about the only way everybody was going to come together to try to race so quickly, right?
Yes, I think so, and I think that the fact that they've come together so quickly is good for the people. I think it's good for their family, first of all, and I think it's good for the people who do it week in and week out, the other drivers, the crew members, and their families. I think that this is one of the best things that could happen, is to come together, because their friends and relatives and their family is here. That's where they are. That's where they see them and meet them at the racetrack. And so I think it's good they can come back together.
I'm sorry, I'd put it, I think to our last couple of guests, that it's either you quit and don't do it again, or you get back and do it again. And taking 1 week, 2 weeks, what's the right time? So you might as well just go.
Yeah, I think the quicker they could do it, and the schedule, of course, permitted that. And I think that is the best thing to do, is get right back at it.
And of course, this is a family sport. You come from a racing family. Your son races, a former Winston Cup champion. Now your grandson's racing. Can you shed some light on why Dale Jr. is getting back in the race car this weekend?
Well, first of all, Mike, I'll say that I think the best thing that he could do is get back in the race car very quickly. And he knows that his dad would want him to. That's what he does for a living, is drive race cars. And the system is so that, if you're going to continue, you need to be there at every event. And that's exactly what his dad would want him to do. And I'm sure that that's a great deal of the motivation that he has in being here this weekend.
So it would only seem, for the lack of a better expression, disrespectful to Dale Earnhardt's memory not to get back in the race car and race.
I think definitely would be disrespectful to his legacy and to him as a person, not to race.
Wasn't it fun to watch Dale Sr.? He didn't like the senior thing, but watch him and his son Junior. I think Dale started to mellow in the last few years with the ascension of his son a little bit, didn't he?
I agree totally. I think that we have seen a different side of Dale Earnhardt since Dale Jr. came into this part of the sport. Now, certainly he was very proud when he was winning championships and winning races in the Busch Series, but when he came here and won, we all like to see our children do good things, and he and Dale Jr. had become very close over recent years, and I think that him winning, Dale Jr., meant more to Dale than when he was winning himself. I know it was that way with me. When Dale Jarrett wins, that means a lot more than anything that I ever did in the sport myself.
You did okay in setting up the next thing we wanted to show. You were there. In fact, you were on the call with Ken Squire. You remember the year?
Oh, 1993.
And it was the Daytona 500. Let's take a listen to that.
A couple to go. Again, Earnhardt looking unstable coming up the corner. You can see the tail switch, and he just gathers it up like the master he is.
Jarrett wants to push him hard into this turn. He wants to push him hard in there. If his car's getting loose, he wants to loosen it up even more.
The closer he can get the bumper to the back of Dale Earnhardt's car, the looser Dale will get. There he comes. It looks like he's driving up under him. Earnhardt's car got loose and slid up the racetrack.
Dale Jarrett seeking in. They touch.
Oh, my goodness.
They come back to the line. White flag. White flag and 1 lap to go. Earnhardt coming back on the outside. Bodine gets into it. Strickland gets into it. This is the finish.
Did we say 5 cars had a shot at it? Get ready, because it's coming to the wire. There's Jarrett in front.
Jarrett pulling back in front. Bodine comes down to the inside. Jeff Bodine, the 86 champion, trying to find some room.
Come on, Dale. Go, baby, go. All right, come on. I know he's got it to the floorboard. He can't do any more. Come on, take her to the inside. Don't let him get on the inside of you coming around this turn. Here he comes, Earnhardt. It's the Dale and Dale show. It's become off of turn 4. You know who I'm pulling for. It's Dale Jarrett. Bring her to the inside, Dale. Don't let him get down there. He's going to make it. Dale Jarrett's going to win the Daytona 500. All right. Oh, look at Martha. Oh, dear. Oh, can you believe it? Way to go.
Hey.
Man. Did I teach him to drive that race car? Oh, man.
It wasn't just winning that race, which is consequential, but it was beating Dale Earnhardt.
Absolutely. That's what it made it so special, was beating the master at that racetrack, even though Dale Earnhardt had not won the Daytona 500, but he was always a factor there. He was always the man to beat.
Right, and not in a vengeful way to beat him, but in a respectful way to beat him. You're right?
Yes, pass him on the last lap. I mean, you couldn't have written a script as far as we were concerned. And, I got very concerned about that, the way that I called that last lap, although I was encouraged to by the producer. He came on my headset and said, "Okay, Ned," said, "call your son home and be a daddy." Well, that's when I went from being supposedly a professional announcer to being a dad. But as we got into the next week, I felt very bad about that. And the more I thought about it, the worse I felt about it, because I had thrown Dale Earnhardt in the river and his fans. That was not the way that it should have been done. So we came right here to Rockingham the next week, and I went to find Earnhardt, and I said, "Dale, I need to talk to you." And he was congratulating. That's the first time I'd seen him. He was congratulating on me for Dale Jarrett winning the race. And I said, "I threw you in the river." He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, me pulling for him on national television on that last lap." And I said, that's not the way that it should have been. I threw you in the river." And he just stopped and looked me straight in the eye and pointed at me. He said, "Don't you ever forget that I'm a daddy too."
Perfect. Thanks.
And he fixed me where I didn't feel nearly as bad after that.
He still is a daddy. He's
Yes.
just not here anymore.
Yes.
Thanks for that memory and all the others you provided us, and the ones you'll continue to do so. Stay
you very
around.
much.
We're going to
Thank you.
continue with this special tribute on ESPN Classic to Dale Earnhardt. We're coming back soon from Rockingham.
I was always consumed with the X's and O's of football. Where people went, where they moved to. It was like a chess game to me. I could see 22 people in my mind when I closed my eyes. I could see exactly where they are, exactly where they're going. And I thrived on the strategies and tactics of the game.
Knowledge is the edge. At Invesco Funds, it's the approach we use to make money for investors. You should know what Invesco knows.
You're getting sleepy. Very sleepy. No, I'm not.
Cold symptoms keeping you awake? Get NyQuil. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head fever, so you can get the sleep you need to feel better medicine.
Look! Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Ellie's renting again. And Enterprise picked her up again. She said Enterprise picks her up free. Free? Free. Now that makes renting easy.
Pick Enterprise. We'll pick you up.
It's here. Inside is unlimited strength and power. This is Bowflex, an entire gym in one easy-to-use machine. So powerful, it delivers over 60 health club quality exercises with up to 410 pounds of resistance, all in the convenience of your own home. For a free video and brochure, call or go online at bowflexdirect.com. Bowflex. Who said change was easy?
Start your weekend with the hottest NASCAR action in history on ESPN Classic. Every Saturday at 10 a.m., get ready for Classic Pit Stop. NASCAR legends like Gordon, Petty, Earnhardt battle it out in 2 hours of full-throttle NASCAR action. Before the big weekend race, get ready with Classic Pit Stop. Every Saturday at 10 a.m., only on ESPN Classic. Get in the fast lane with ESPN Classic, home of the greatest NASCAR in history.
We are back at Rockingham, where Jeff Gordon has captured the pole for Sunday's event, the first event since the passing of the great Dale Earnhardt. We're just about to wrap up our live 2 hours, but 10 more come still on ESPN Classic. I want to remind you, flashing before my eyes, an ESPN Classic production, the good storyteller Dick Schaap and his 50-year journey in and out of the sports world. By the way, Dick's son Jeremy is also in television. And right now, at this point in the show, getting toward the end of it, bringing in all our reporters here who've been involved in covering auto racing, Ray Dunlap, Marla Klein, Mike Massaro, just to kind of finish our segment here. What hits you about this week and about this day? I'll start that the last guest, when you hear Ned talk about the bond of being a father, watching his son, because we all as laymen, I know you've all been around the actual racing, but not racers. There's a big difference.
There is.
And he was able to apologize to Dale that he shouldn't have sided with his son on national TV, and Dale's like, "You're a father." You know?
There's an unspoken communication. There's no doubt about it. And I think people who come from racing families like Ned, Bobby Labonte, the Burton brothers guys, I think they have a better handle on what's going on here this weekend.
I think one thing that has struck me is that everyone's kind of reevaluating their family situation. When I just talked to Bobby Labonte when he came off the set, he said, you know what, I stayed home a little bit longer last night before I came down to the racetrack, and I wanted to spend a little extra time with my family. He came here with his wife this weekend and said, you know what, I just want to spend a little extra time with my wife this weekend alone and just kind of grieve and get over this.
Guys, a year ago I was at Richmond, and it was a no bull 5 race, and both Dale Earnhardt and Dale Earnhardt Jr. were both eligible to win $1 million that day. And I went up at the pre-race and I started talking to Junior, and all of a sudden I felt this terrible cramp in my side, like this great big lobster had latched onto me, and I'm like, oh, that really hurts, but I'm still trying to do the interview. And I look over, and here's Earnhardt, and he's squeezing my little fat roll just as hard as he can, and I'm still trying to talk to the kid. So I lean over to Dale, and he pulls me in real tight, and he says, hey, buddy, and all of a sudden he starts stomping on my foot just as hard as he could, and it really, really hurt, and I'm trying to get through this interview, and we finally get done. The producer says, clear, throw it to someone else. I said to the Big E, I said, what in the world was that? He said, don't you ever talk to the kid first. and I learned a very valuable lesson that day, because Dale Earnhardt was the intimidator, and boy, you didn't mess with him. You go to him first. You go to the source. And it's a very sad day when we have to say, won't be able to do that anymore.
And he loved coming in, but he'd always let you in that it was a joke, you know.
Yeah.
He came into a room at Daytona when RPM was allowed inside Daytona, and he walks in the room, and we've been doing a bunch of stories on Jeff Gordon because he's this kid on the rise, and he walks in, he looks at me and said, you still dating Jeff Gordon? And the whole room fell apart. I feel like, you know, I'm totally red. I talked to Jeff about that. He laughs at the same thing because it was Dale's way. So they, like, I'm still the story too. You know, I was back on the rise at that point.
He had a way with the media for sure. Every time you were around him with a camera on pit road, he would put on an act for you and certainly put on a show. He knew what it was all about, and he played it up as big as he possibly could, almost as big as the image that he held in this sport. And I think really that's what people will remember him for.
Oh, I think there's no doubt about it. I'm listening to Ray's story, and throughout the week I've been listening to everyone's stories about covering Dale Earnhardt, and it was an absolute treat to cover him because you never ever knew what he was going to do to you when you were interviewing him. I know that I've told this story actually a couple times this week, that it was right after I got engaged, and he had heard I was engaged, and he said to me, you know what, you can't marry this guy until I meet him. And I said, well, I'm going to marry him anyway. I don't really care. And then he told me, he's like, send me an invitation because you know what? You know you'll at least get a good gift out of me.
Did you?
I didn't send him an invitation.
Oh, come on. Thank you, too, for being here. And both these two kind of on the auxiliary list. You got bumped for Jeff Burton and Jeff Gordon, and it was tough, but it's great getting those racers out here, and it's been a good couple of hours.
Good to hear the memories.
Absolutely. We'll come back and wrap this up in just a couple minutes as ESPN Classics 12-hour coverage continues.
Is your dandruff sending the wrong signals?
Way over. And as the time moved on, it felt better and better just to talk about them. Anytime you lose someone, whether it's a family member or a friend that you've known or just an acquaintance, in my case, in Dale's case, it feels good to get it out and hear those other stories.
It was certainly part of the healing process for me, and I'm sure for some of the viewers out there, to hear people like Bobby Labonte, Jeff Gordon, Jeff Burton, Ward Burton, and the rest of our guests recant their tales of Dale Earnhardt. We certainly will remember him for everything he did on the racetrack, but it was good to actually be able to take a look at the human side, the compassionate side of Dale Earnhardt today.
Charlie Steiner's going to take over the next 10 hours. I want to close with my favorite memory. I had my home video camera, and I'm behind Dale Earnhardt after he's won the 1998 Daytona 500. It was February of '98. He won it for himself, but it seemed like for so many others, somebody cared for him. And usually the losers just leave, but this time they lined up on pit road to reach out to him. This was mostly for him, but it seemed also for them that they got satisfaction of being a part of Dale's biggest moment. They cannot reach out and touch him any longer, but they are lining up again because of him and for him.
The preceding has been a special presentation of ESPN Classic.
everybody. I'm Charlie Steiner, and who transcended his sport. And like Babe, he was number 3. Sunday's tragic final lap at the Daytona 500 cut short a magnificent career that saw 7 Winston Cup titles and 76 victories. Earnhardt left so many fans with so many great memories, even our upcoming 12 hours doesn't seem like quite enough. The 1994 Winston Select 500, the 1999 Goodies Headache Powder 500, the 2000 Cracker Barrel Old Country Store 500, and probably the greatest race of his career, the 1998 Daytona 500. We now present the 1994 Winston Select 500 from Talladega Superspeedway as the Intimidator held off Ernie Irvan for his 9th victory at the track. Before a crowd of 150,000, Earnhardt notched his 62nd victory of his career. Stay with us now as ESPN Classic remembers Dale Earnhardt.
25 years ago, deep in the heart of Alabama, they built a speedway unlike any other. Her steep banking invites cars to the unforgiving concrete walls that surround her. She has accepted the challenge of the best, but only twice could the king raise his specter over her. Richard Petty remembers how NASCAR Winston Cup racing used to be, when the driver was called upon to do more than just steer the car around the tri-oval. We all remember the drivers who lived with Interstate and established a group led by Bobby Allison called the Alabama Gang. Now, a new generation of drivers and owners seek a spot in the history books, and for some, a chance to rise to the level of the original members. In her 25-year history, the sport has changed so much. The racing has evolved, and so has the work on pit road. The ballet of yesterday has been changed into a science which pushes crews to the edge of excellence. The history of this palace of speed has called upon all competitors to live on the edge every second of the journey. Side-by-side racing and a crash. Mark Martin's car lifts off the ground but does not go over. They come through the tri-oval. Checkered is waving. Ernie Irvan wins and Rusty spins and gets airborne. So much has changed in the past quarter of a century, yet one thing has remained the same. Talladega continues to mean speed and the ultimate challenge for drivers. ESPN, the world's leader in motorsports coverage, welcomes you live to Talladega Superspeedway in Alabama for the Winston Select 500. It is mostly cloudy here in Alabama today. It has rained overnight. Temperatures in the 70s, and the chance of rain will lessen as the day goes along. The first half of the Winston Cup short track season is over, and as a result, Ernie Irvan is back on top of the point standings by 25 over Dale Earnhardt. Mark Martin, Rusty Wallace, and Ken Schrader complete the top 5. In the second 5, you find Terry Labonte, who won one of the short track races, and Sterling Marlin, the Daytona 500 winner, who is going for the Winston Million in 1994. Hi, everyone. I'm Bob Jenkins here at the International Motorsports Hall of Fame, located on the grounds of Talladega Superspeedway, among some of the famous cars that have raced here in the past 25 years. Cars driven by racing legends who have tested their skills on this 2.6-mile facility. But the cars and the drivers have been replaced by a new generation. Drivers who will continue the tradition established by those including members of the famous Alabama Gang. And one such driver is on the pole for today's Winston Select 500. Here's Dr. Jerry Punch.
Thank you, Bob, and hello, everyone. While there isn't an original member of the Alabama Gang in today's field, there just may be an adopted one. You see, on Friday in qualifying, this partisan Alabama crowd by far gave the greatest ovation to this car, number 28, and its current driver, Ernie Irvan. You see, they remember the exploits of this car, number 28, and previous driver, the late Davey Allison. They also remember last year's final laps, and Ernie Irvan in a different car going to victory lane. And Ernie, those memories and that ovation had to be very special for you.
They are. They're for the whole race team. You know, these guys have went through a lot, and I just hope I could take them to victory lane here at Talladega like I did last year, and we can all celebrate together.
Given the competitive feel, what do we expect to see today?
It's going to be a tough race. You know, there's going to be a lot of cars running real competitive, Loy, and just all the guys that always run good on restrictor plate stuff. So I look for a nice close finish.
Ernie Irvan sets to lead him down. If you've never seen a race at this massive facility, prepare to enjoy the Talladega experience. And now some of the legends themselves will give the command.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, for the most famous words in motorsports, please welcome back Mr. Anthony Bruno and friends. Gentlemen, start your engines!
For the last 3 weeks here on ESPN, as we brought you some great short track racing where it's hard to pass tight turns. Well, we're at a different concept of racing today for NASCAR Winston Cup racing. On the biggest track they run on, the high speeds, upward of 200 miles an hour, wide track, high banks. If you have the car and the horsepower and maybe some help from a drafting partner, you can pass on this racetrack. There have been a lot of first-time winners in NASCAR Winston Cup racing that have come on this racetrack. And Benny Parsons, we just might see another first-time winner here today.
Ned, I'll tell you one young man who needs to win today, Loy Allen. We haven't seen him race on ESPN because he failed to qualify for the short tracks. And just like Daytona, Atlanta, he's on the front row right alongside Ernie Irvan. But he ran yesterday, ran great in the ARCA race yesterday, and was in an accident not of his own doing right near the end of the race. But today he's with the big guys. He needs to run up front and prove to himself and his sponsors that he can run with the big guys. Now there's one more guy who might make a first-time winner here at Talladega. He's with John Kernan.
Well, Benny, you know, 8 drivers have won their first career Winston Cup races right here at this speedway. Todd Bodine may be in prime position to pull off the upset today. Todd, with his best career start, 3rd place, and fresh off his best career finish, 6th place last week at Martinsville, starts 3rd today in a car that led the Daytona 500 back in February for 7 laps. So Todd Bodine could be a factor today, Bob.
Among the drivers who have won their very first NASCAR Winston Cup race here at Talladega, Phil Parsons, Bobby Hillin, Juan Bouchard, Lenny Pond, Richard Brickhouse, and Dick Brooks. 42 seek the checkered flag this afternoon in the Winston Select 500, and we'll be back with the lineup and other things in just a moment.
In tennis, the advantage of the two-handed backhand is obviously power because you're using both hands. But it also is deceiving because in a split second, you can change the direction of the ball that you hit. Your opponent never knows if you're going to rifle it down the line or rip it cross court, and I like that.
Knowledge is the edge. At Invesco Funds, it's the approach we use to make money for investors. You should know what Invesco knows.
Introducing the latest in all-weather gear from LL Bean. It's the new LL Bean Edition Outback from Subaru. With full-time all-wheel drive, classic LL Bean styling, and a new powerful 6-cylinder engine that makes the toughest drive a walk in the woods. The LL Bean Edition Outback. New from Subaru.
Vodka sold separately.
Discover the power of the new 6-cylinder Outback today.
Time. They come on until it's clutch. They'll have to throw it up. Earnhardt, turnaround, shot in the air. It's good. It's tied again. I don't believe it. We've got a 3rd overtime in a Boston gun.
You are watching ESPN Classic remembers Dale Earnhardt, a 12-hour tribute to a racing legend. And you're watching ESPN Classic.
Well, the cars have moved out on Talladega Super Speedway, and they're going to take a couple of warm-up laps and then get the green flag. Talladega Super Speedway is a tri-oval, similar shape to Daytona International Speedway. However, it is banked a little steeper and it is faster. As a matter of fact, the Talladega Superspeedway front stretch, actually a tri-oval, is 4,300 feet. The back stretch is 4,000 feet. 33 degrees of banking in the corners, 18 degrees in the tri-oval, and the back stretch is flat. Now let's take a look at the starting grid for today's event. The Busch pole sitter is Ernie Irvan with a speed of 193.298 miles an hour, the fastest since the restrictor plates came along in 1988. On the outside of the front row will be the Daytona 500 pole sitter, Loy Allen, in the Hooters Ford car 19. Second row, there's Todd Bodine from Chemung, New York, in the Factory Stores of America Ford number 75, and Dale Earnhardt in the GM Goodwrench Chevrolet car number 3. The third row consists of Berwick, Pennsylvania's Jimmy Spencer in the McDonald's Ford car 27, and Greg Sachs in the U.S. Air Ford car number 77. The fourth row has Ken Schrader in car number 25 and Michael Waltrip in car 30. Dale Jarrett starts in 9th position in the Interstate Battery Chevrolet car 18, and then Sterling Marlin in the Kodak Film Chevrolet car number 4. Steve Grissom starts 11th in the Diamond Ridge Chevrolet number 29, and then the 21 of Morgan Shepherd, the Citgo Ford. Harry Gant starts 13th in his final spring race here at Talladega. 1 win, 1 pole position in 30 races at this facility. Chuck Bound will start in 14th position in the Relife Ford car number 12. Mark Martin from Batesville, Arkansas goes 15th in car 6, the Valvoline Ford, and Darrell Waltrip has command of the Western Auto Chevrolet starting from 16th position. Ted Musgrave goes next in the Family Channel Ford, car number 16. Then Lake Speed in number 15, the Quality Care Ford. Wallace Brothers in row number 10. It's Mike on the inside in car number 90 and Rusty alongside in number 2. Terry Labonte starts the Kellogg's Cornflake Chevrolet from 21st starting position, and Dave Marcus starts 22nd in the STG Chevrolet. Jeff Bodine starts 23rd in the Exide Batteries Ford car number 7, then Jeremy Mayfield in the Shoney's Ford number 95. Rick Mast starts inside of row number 13, and outside will be Hut Strickland in car number 23. Kyle Petty has the 27 starting position in car number 42, and Brett Bodine in number 26. Jimmy Hensley starts on the inside of row number 15, qualifying at 189.055, and Bill Elliott at 189.044. Derek Cope will begin next inside of row number 16, and alongside will be Jeff Purvis. In the next row will be Ricky Rudd and Jeff Burton. Wally Dallenbach and John Andretti will be in row number 18. The 19th row consists of Joe Nemechek and Dick Trickle. In row number 20, Bobby Hamilton and Jeff Gordon. And the provisional starters today are Bobby Labonte and Kirk Shelmerdine in his first NASCAR Winston Cup race, driving car number 52. And those who didn't make the race and are flipping burgers today include Richie Petty, Rich Bickle, Jimmy Horton, Jim Sauter, Ward Burton, Ronnie Sanders, and Del McCowart. All those were here, failed to qualify fast enough to make the show. We have a whole bunch of in-car cameras for you today. As a matter of fact, 21 in-car cameras will be covering the action for us. That's the camera on top of the Valvoline Ford driven by Mark Martin. There's Derek Cope's in-car camera. View of Jimmy Hensley up front and Bill Elliott. Well, the pace car has pulled off. The field is under the command of Ernie Irvan with Loy Allen flanked to his right, and we get set for 188 laps of racing in the Winston Select 500 in Talladega. Glad to have you with us. Sit back and relax and enjoy an afternoon of racing here on ESPN. The green is out. our cameras giving you 21 different views of the action here at Talladega as they remain basically 2x2, some spreading out and making it 3 even. Here's the biggest pack of cars. Kerry Gant and Ted Musgrave down on the inside along with Brett Bodine.
They want to get back. Here's 3 abreast up front. Here's Todd Bodine's in the middle. Jimmy Spencer goes around him. Third, maybe second. He's side by side with Loy Allen.
And Loy Allen so far is doing a great job. 2 laps he's hung in there, running second or third.
And there's Michael Waltrip in the yellow car. He has been caught in the middle. His brother Darrell Waltrip down on the inside. Michael wants to get out of that situation as quickly as he can.
Waltrip remains in the middle as Dale Jarrett is to the inside and Morgan Shepherd to the outside. Up front it is still Ernie Irvan showing the way for the great battle. Spencer and Loy Allen for second, and Darrell Waltrip continues to move up on the inside of the racetrack.
When he got an opportunity to go and make 3 abreast, moving around Ken Schrader.
Darrell started 16th. He is definitely on the way forward.
Inside Darrell Waltrip's car now. Right behind Todd Bodine. As they thunder down into turn 1 again. Loy Allen has secured himself now in second place and gives chase to Ernie Irvan.
We got Ken Schrader in the middle. Losing some positions, and Jimmy Spencer tries to take Earnhardt.
We saw him move out down low to get back up 2 abreast. Folks, it's not unusual to see them run 2 abreast here for a long period of time.
Earnhardt, is that Earnhardt on the outside of Loy Allen?
Yes, it is. Trying to take over second position, and he will do so. Coming through the tri-oval and heading for the start-finish line again. It's Earnhardt in second, and Jimmy Spencer is down on the inside of the racetrack trying to take third from Loy Allen, but Greg Sachs is going to do so as they go into third.
Boy, Loy Allen's got himself in a bad position. He's in the middle. Dale Jarrett goes by on the outside. Here comes Darrell Waltrip down on the inside.
And here comes Earnhardt for the lead.
Here below us in the tri-oval. Earnhardt sneaks below. Ernie Irvan races wheel to wheel with him toward turn number 3. Now it's alongside of Sachs for second.
Look what that draft did when Greg Sachs pulled in behind Ernie Irvan, and away they went from Earnhardt, and Spencer not content to follow.
Running is the fastest way to burn fat if you follow these simple steps. Running will power up your energy reserve if you know what pace is best for you. Running will trim your love handles, hips, and thighs if you call now for this free book, The Complete Runner's Guide, designed for all levels, even if you've never taken a stride. This guide delivers maximum results in minimum time. It's free with your paid subscription to Runner's World. Every issue gets you going with new ideas on improving your performance to finding the perfect shoe. Call for your risk-free trial issue of Runner's World. If you like it, get 11 more for just $17.97. If you're not satisfied, cancel, owe nothing, and keep the free issue. Call now and get a second book free. Burn fat faster. Tone your abs. Lose weight. Drop body fat. The secrets are here. You can burn fat. Gain more energy. Sculpt your body. If you call Runner's World now.
Call 1-800-213-8700 now.
If it runs,
Onto the backstretch.
burns,
Wow, big explosion.
spins, or turns, we're the insiders.
He's out of fuel.
RPM Tonight, the most in-depth racing coverage anywhere. Nightly at 7, only on ESPN2.
For more on the life and career of the Intimidator, visit ESPN.com Classic special Dale Earnhardt site. Earnhardt tributes, remembrances, official career stats, and photo gallery, plus audio and video clips of the Man in Black. Visit ESPN.com Classic.
They called him the Intimidator, and they called him Ironhead, and that was even before they removed a piece of chisel that stuck in his head while he was working on a race car back in 1976. No one ever drove harder or more fearlessly, and no one enjoyed a victory more than Dale Earnhardt did when he finally won the Daytona 500 in 1998 after 19 unsuccessful attempts. Mike Gleason has more on the life of Dale Earnhardt.
Finally is a champion of the Daytona 500.
The Intimidator.
I remember my first year down at IROC in Daytona, and he was standing by one of the trucks, and he's got his glasses on, and he's got his arms crossed. He's just watching everybody walk by and stuff, and I went up and stood next to him, and oh, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm just looking at everybody.
Dale Earnhardt was born to stock car racing in Kannapolis, North Carolina in 1951. His father, Ralph, was the 1956 NASCAR Sportsman Division champion and a popular man in the Winston Cup garage. Ralph died in 1973 while working on his car. For Dale, racing wasn't a way of life. It was life.
That's all I ever knew. I never did play ball. I never did do anything much in school other than hurried and got home and seen what was going on with race cars. And it was a unique childhood. And that's why I think the love of racing and my drive to race was so strong when I started is that's what I knew. That's what I grew up doing. And it's just, it's like I knew how to do it. But when I sat down in a race car, it was just natural.
As natural as it was very unrefined. When he arrived on the Winston Cup circuit full-time in 1979, he ruffled more than a few feathers and bent his fair share of sheet metal.
Very, very creepy, like a diamond in the rough. It's one of those deals where you see some of them coming and you say, if he makes it, he's going to be okay, but if he keeps driving like this, he ain't going to make it.
I got into Richard at Martinsville. I remember one race that I got into the side of Richard going in one, but I did it from about 10 cars back from where I started, and I passed like 5 or 6 cars getting in the corner to get to Richard Petty. And I didn't do it to get to Richard Petty, but just Richard was in the way when I got there.
He tolerated it. The owners tolerated the wrecks and all that stuff, and some of the drivers tolerated some of the stuff that he did at that time, and it all worked out.
I was listening when they were scolding me. Richard Petty, too, when he was scolding me about driving over the curb into the side of his race car.
He was listening, and he was learning. In 1980, Earnhardt became the first driver to win Rookie of the Year and the Winston Cup Championship in back-to-back seasons. After driving for Rod Osterlund and Bud Moore, Earnhardt signed on with former independent driver Richard Childress. The early going was rough, but a dynasty was in the making.
84 was a little bit of a tough year. 85 was even a tougher year. We blew up a lot of engines. I think we won a race or two both years, but Richard told me, he said, man, it's not really working out, and you're a champion. You know, if you want to go do something else, feel free to. And I said, no, man, we'll stick this thing out. Well, we had 85 was a tough year. We turned the corner in 86, won a championship, and we just went from there up. It just was amazing.
From 1986 to 1994, Earnhardt and Childress won 6 championships in 48 races. They had the best pit crew. They won on short tracks. They won on speedways. And Earnhardt's ability to master the draft became legend. The result was a fan frenzy and marketing machine that the sport has never seen. He copyrighted his name and signature and turned souvenir sales into a standalone booming business. His career was like an all-comers meet, beating the likes of Yarborough and Petty to Wallace and Elliott. Fans either loved him or hated him. There was no middle ground.
Dale Earnhardt came along when Richard Petty was going out. We needed greatly a new superstar, and became a different kind of a hero than Richard Petty was. Became the Intimidator, the Man in Black, and sold a lot of tickets for us and got a lot of TV ratings up there.
But the Intimidator's Achilles heel was Daytona. He had won there more than any driver in history, but never in the Daytona 500. In 1998, on the 20th try, the sport's biggest star finally took the sport's biggest prize.
Been here a lot. This is the greatest time I've ever had in Victory Lane right here. This is it.
The Earnhardt name has gone from the dirt tracks of North Carolina to the title of a multi-million-dollar racing corporation.
To win the championships and race against Petty and people that he raced against, and Yarborough and Pearson and these guys, it's pretty unique, pretty awesome thing. All I can remember or think about is that he would have enjoyed this so much as what we've accomplished and what we've done, and enjoyed the things I've done over time. And I'd like for him to have been along the whole ride. It would have been neat.
ESPN Classic remembers Dale Earnhardt. Continues right after this.
32,
33, 34, 45, 46, 47, 50, 451, 452.
Cold symptoms keeping you awake?
What?
Get NyQuil. The nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head fever so you can get the sleep you need to feel better medicine.
Little body, foo, foo. Is it hip? Pretty baby. Oh. This is hip, baby. It's so hip, pretty baby. This is hip, pretty baby. All messed around and fell in love.
Jack Daniel's Grill, only on Fridays.
The Intel Pentium 4 processor, the center of your digital world.
Operator, I'd like to make a collect call, please. First name Bob, last name is We Oughta Baby Eats a Boy.
Hello?
Collect call for Mr. Bob. We Oughta Baby Eats a Boy.
Sorry, wrong number.
Who's that, dear?
Bob, they had a baby. It's a boy.
Oh.
Don't cheat the phone company. Save money the legal way. Call Geico. A 15-minute call could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
You are watching ESPN Classic Remembers Dale Earnhardt, a 12-hour tribute to a racing legend. And you're watching ESPN Classic.
Back at Talladega for the Winston Select 500 NASCAR Winston Cup race, number 9 in the series this year. There are 6 cars in the lead draft, but there is just a small space back to another group of 5 cars that are drafting together.
And they're being very disciplined at this time. They're trying to pull away. This group of 5 behind them there is trying to catch up. This group behind them has been racing a lot of side-by-side racing out there, and that's one reason they're drawing back.
It's the black cars, Chuck Bound right in front of Roy Allen. Now the Walter brothers side by side alongside, right behind them, Rusty Wallace, Red Bodine, Terry Labonte. Inside Darrell Walton's car, that's Rusty right on the outside of him. Red Bodine, this weekend, he's lost 3 engines. It spun yesterday afternoon early on in the last practice.
Qualify yesterday, finally got the job done, but there was a lot of anxious moments in the Kenny Burns team garage area yesterday. Jeff Gordon, boy, he is moving up nicely. Started 40th on lap 1. He was 34th. The progression continued. Fell back to 37th, but now has moved up to 20th position. Jeff Gordon, car 24.
Inside Jeff Gordon's DuPont Automotive Finishers car, looking at his teammate, Terry Labonte. There he is.
Roy Allen has lost several positions since the start of the race. He began on the outside of the front row, but as you can see, he's back now, running in the 13th position.
That's a huge disadvantage that Loy has this year in not qualifying for these races. He still doesn't have a lot of seat time in that car.
Difficult to get experience in those races. Right. And even that experience he could have gained on the short tracks would have been helpful to him.
Here comes Kyle Petty making it full wide as they head for the start-finish line. Jeff Purvis, Todd Strickland, and Ted Musgrave running along with him.
Trying to figure that out, and that obviously there is no good way.
They wanted to figure out who's my best drafting partner. They teamed up with different ones yesterday, mostly by luck, whoever was out on the track, whoever they could get going off the pit road, and say, hey, we ran pretty good together. Where is he? He's somewhere else or back behind me. So I've got to find me a new drafting partner. Who's the best to go this ride?
Ooh, Michael just slid in between those two cars. The yellow car right in front of Jerry. Oh. Now these guys are trying to get in line. Some of them are trying to get in line anyway.
There are 4 groups of cars. You're watching the one running toward the back of the pack.
And the 2 groups up front are about to merge.
Here comes Ricky Rudd looking to the inside of Brett Ryan and Lonnie Donovan. And Jeff Purvis will go along with him on the bottom.
Jeff Purvis, our winner yesterday in the ARCA Food World 500K. Run here at the Speedway yesterday afternoon.
Continues to lead. We will keep you informed of what's going on up front while the action is followed here in the back. And there is the interval between that group of cars and the lead draft, which now consists of 5 cars. However, again, there's a group of 4 more that are very close behind Jimmy Spencer. Here they come, as a matter of fact, to catch up.
Looks like the Morgan Shepherd has brought that group along with him, and they've brought the leaders, and they've left these 2 guys, Lake Speed and Gerald Jarrett, behind just a little. These 2 guys,
well, they were right up with them a few laps ago, but they're losing. But there's a group of cars coming up behind them back there that could help them. There was him coming up back there. Jeff Gordon is in that group of cars back there. So Jared and Lake Speed need the help of another car.
2 cars run faster together than 1 car does. 3 cars run faster than 2.
And some positions being changed up front.
Earnhardt takes over that second spot. That's Spencer following him. Sachs is back to 4th.
And challenged by that position from Morgan Shepherd. And Jerry Punch has a report on Ernie Irvan, who has led all the way so far.
They can breathe a little bit easier in the Ernie Irvan pit right now, but about an hour and a half ago, they were sweating bullets. When they fired the car up in the garage to go through inspection, the car shut off. They knew they had a wiring problem, but they couldn't find it. They unloaded the backup car out of the truck, took the entire wiring everything out, placed it in this car. They were the last car to get online to start the race, and apparently their work is paying off.
Todd Bodine is hung out to dry now on the inside of the track. We're with Mark Martin looking over his left shoulder.
You see just how little effort he does put in the steering. We've been watching the cars on the short track, and we can see, and watch him just relax and put his arm up on. He's going for a Sunday drive.
He's on a Sunday drive, going to the store.
Yeah.
And now Earnhardt challenges Irvan for the lead, and Jimmy Spencer will go down to the bottom to see if he can tag along, putting Irvan back to at least 3rd. Greg Sachs is going to fall in behind Irvan, so he goes from 1st to 3rd. Jerry.
Ernie Irvan just radioed the crew that I'm getting very loose with these guys behind me, so let's see what they do in front of me. Ernie Irvan has asked for more spoiler to try to tighten the rear of the car down on the first pit stop.
Jimmy Spencer now looking to the inside of Dale Earnhardt as he's secured 2nd position.
Assure yourself that Earnhardt is going to handle well. Looks like he, Richard Childress, Andy Petrie, as well as any car in the field.
And Schrader had a look there inside of Greg Sachs, but decided not to make a move at this time. He falls in behind Sachs.
Well, we saw Schrader going backwards there about 10 laps. He got a drafting partner with Mark Martin. They have come up through there pretty good.
Like Ernie Irvan might have waved those guys behind him by. He does not want to be at the beginning in the middle of this field. Oh, Jeff Bodine has hit the wall hard someplace.
Limping into the pit area, but damage on the right front of that car, extensive damage, and the yellow is out for the first time. Jeff's going to take it behind the wall. He has got some major damage.
Had a crash at Martinsville last week.
Ernie Irvan on the inside, just trying to maintain position back to the caution flag.
Everybody off the gas and just settling back to come down and take the caution flag. There's no effort to gain any positions here. Nobody is a lap down yet, so nobody's trying to get that lap back under caution. And Dale Earnhardt leads them down very slowly to take the caution flag. It'll come on lap number 20. This is the 25th race that Dale Earnhardt has led at Talladega in 31 races.
What do you think, Ned? They got a pit, don't they?
Well, I think for fuel, they've run more than a half of the fuel, or about a half of the fuel stop. So I would think that they need to take this opportunity to get some fuel and maybe to check the tires. But I don't think they were concerned about tire wear here today, but it'll give them an opportunity to check them out. And Ernie Irvan probably wants an opportunity to make an adjustment on these cars.
And you know, if all the cars in front of him don't pit, Irvan will probably pit anyway because he looks like needs to adjust that car.
There's Ernie, who led the first few laps of the race before the car got loose on him. He fell back.
Look at that spoiler. They'll push that up. Get a little more pressure back there.
Let's see if we can determine what happened to Jeff Bodine, the reason for our caution. He's already up against the wall in turns 3 and 4, coming through, and a lot of damage to the Exide battery 4. Here's John Kernan.
Waiting for pit stops on pit road. You know, the drivers have complained just a moment ago. Dale Earnhardt complained to Childress, and a couple other drivers have complained to the NASCAR officials, and now they have told security that apparently there have been some objects, can you believe it, folks, objects thrown out of the grandstand that has struck a couple of the cars up front. The last time by before the caution came out, Earnhardt said at least a couple of cans struck the side of his car down toward turns 1, entering turn 1. So now security